Hello students, welcome to today's English class. I am Roopna Ravindran, Assistant Professor of English, Government Degree College, Chevalla in Rangareddy district of Telangana. Today, let's discuss the poem A Psalm of Life written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This poem is part of the curriculum prescribed by Osmania University for first year, first sem, BA, BCom, BSc students. Coming to the next slide, here we have the background information about the author Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He was born on 27th February 1807 and he died on March 24th, 1882. He is a famous 19th century scholar, novelist and poet. He is known for his works like Voices of the Night, in which this poem is included, Evangeline and The Song of Hiawatha. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a Harvard scholar versed in several European languages. He was heavily influenced by Romanticism and with certain works like Hyperion, Evangeline, poems on slavery and The Song of Hiawatha. He was also known for the translation of Dante's The Divine Comedy. More about the biographical details of the poet. He is an American poet, one of the most celebrated poets of his lifetime. As mentioned, he was born on February 27th in 1807 in a place called Portland. He attended private schools in the Portland Academy. Even at the age of 6, he showed a great propensity towards writing. At the age of 19, he graduated from Bowdoin College and he traveled throughout Europe for 3 years. He received wide public attention with his volume of verse. It is the Voices of Night that we have mentioned earlier, published in the year 1839, and this collection contains the poem A Psalm of Life. He was fluent in translating that on graduation days itself, and he was offered a professorship in modern languages provided that he would first study in Europe. So, preparing himself as a college professor in modern languages, he traveled to several places. In 1836, he began teaching at Harvard University. He wrote and edited textbooks, translated poetry and prose, and wrote essays on different languages like French, Spanish, Italian literature, but he had a sense of isolation. When he was offered a professorship at Harvard with another opportunity to go abroad, he accepted and he went to Germany in 1835. He died on March 24th, 1882. Psalm of Life is actually a poem written by this writer, that is H.W. Longfellow, who is an American writer, as we have already said, and the poem is subtitled What the Heart of the Young Man Said to the Psalmist. Here, the speaker responds to the biblical teachings that human life is not important and that we are made of dust and we are bound to return to the dust in the end after our death. Longfellow wrote the poem shortly after completing lectures on the German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and was heavily inspired by this German writer. He was also inspired to write it by a heartfelt conversation he had with his friend and his colleague at Harvard University. He was further inspired by the death of his wife, and he attempted to convince himself to have a heart for any fate. The poem was first published in October 1838 in the collection The Knickerbocker, and later it was published in 1839 in the collection The Voices of Night. In the summer of 1838, Longfellow wrote another poem, that is The Light of Stars, which is called A Second Psalm of Life. And in 1839, another poem which was inspired by the death of his wife, that is The Footsteps of Angels, was similarly referred to as a third psalm of life. And also the poem The Reaper and the Flowers, which was originally subtitled A Psalm of Death. So we have 4 poems in this range. The first one being a Psalm of Life, which is prescribed for us in the textbook English Made Easy. And the second one is a second Psalm of Life. And after that, a third Psalm of Life. And the final one is a Psalm of Death. So here, the poem is very optimistic in its outlook. It is full of possibilities. We can achieve goals by working hard and making the most of the time available to us. This poem consists of 9 solid stanzas with a rhyme scheme AB, AB. So first, let us read the whole poem. Let us read the whole of 9 stanzas, and after that we'll discuss stanza by stanza. A Psalm of Life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So, in the beginning of the poem, that is in the first stanza, the young psalmist, the young person is addressing the psalmist. What is he saying? He is saying, tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. So the poet asks us not to tell him that life is a hollow, empty, and meaningless dream. Don't tell him in a sad tone, in a sad verse, that life is an empty dream. Life is not empty. Life is not meaningless. He's talking against all the pessimists who sing sad songs about life. For a person, for a soul, is dead that slumbers. A person who spends the whole life sleeping is already dead. His soul is dead. Such worthless examples of life often misguides others. So you should not be lazy in life. Life is not worthless. It has more potential than we can actually think of. Things are not what they seem. We have experienced only very little of life. So we don't know the actual potential of life. So we have to value life and then work hard and go ahead to achieve the greater goals in life. Coming to the second stanza, life is real, life is earnest, and grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Actually, this life is real. Dream is transient, dream is momentary. It comes in our sleep and it goes off. Sometimes we don't even remember what we saw in the dream. But life is real and it is truthful, it is earnest. This conveys the positive attitude of the poet towards life. Life is serious, it is not baseless. We should not take life lightly. And grave is not its goal. To the speaker, to the poet, grave is not the ultimate goal of life. You should not think that anyway one day we'll die so we can live in an easy way. It is not like that. That is not the policy that you have to follow. Life does not end with death also. The biblical quotation is given, dust thou art, to dust returnest. We have come from dust and we are bound to go back to the dust. We are made of dust. That is what Bible says. So life does not end with death. Biblical quotation is about body and not about the soul. They are referring to the status of the body. They are not referring about soul. So, poet makes it clear that he believes in the existence of soul. There is something called soul that lives even beyond our life, even beyond our body. Now, the third stanza is about the ideal way of living. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. So neither enjoyment nor sorrow should be our ultimate aim or way of life. In an ideal life, there should be both enjoyment and sorrow in a balanced way. So we have to act. How should we act? That each tomorrow find us farther than day. It is important in life to work hard so that we can be a better person tomorrow. We shouldn't waste even a single day. We need to think that we have only the present in hand and tomorrow is somewhere farther and it will come to us. It may not come to us also. We are not sure about that. So we should live in the present. We have to work hard and then try to be a better person. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. Artwork is long living, but life is short and time is running away fast with every moment. The poet then says that though our hearts are brave and very strong at some times, all of us fear death. Our heart beats faster when we realize that death is coming our way. The poet compares the situation of our heart to the beating of the drums at the funeral marches of the grave. So, we should utilize our limited time span to the fullest instead of wasting that. We have to utilize the time. We have to seize the day and then work hard. In the next stanza, in the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. The poet compares this world to a vast battlefield. So, if the whole world is a battlefield, then all the individuals here in this world are warriors, are soldiers. So, this world is also like a rest house where we come for a short period of time, rest temporarily in camps, and then we go away somewhere. Our soul remains, but our body dies. Human beings are compared with soldiers bound to fight in the battle of life. So the poet urges us to be heroes in the battle of life. We should not be like dumb cattle. Cattle doesn't have any intelligence. They don't know what to do. They just eat and then sleep. So we are not like that. We are human beings with intelligence. So we should be very brave and we should fight the battle strong. And finally, we have to win the battle also. In other words, he wishes us to be successful in life by following the right way of life. The poet urges us not to be like the dumb driven cattle with no particular goal or direction. We have to be like a hero in the strife. The sixth stanza, trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. So in this stanza, the poet reminds us of a very popular quote. That is, we have to learn from the past, live in the present and hope for the future. Past is already gone, so we have to be dependent on the learnings, but we should not mourn about whatever is lost in the past. We have the present that is in our hand, so we have to seize the present and work hard. And we can only hope about future, but we don't know if the future will come to us or not. So we cannot trust future. Future may appear pleasant, but we tend to get carried away by the happy dreams of future. We forget to act in the present also. So the poet asks us to forget about the past events as they are already dead and they should not haunt us anymore. But we have to concentrate on our present action, which is very much crucial in our life. We have to follow our heart and we have to keep faith in the God overhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. So many great men have lived in this earth and they have gone, but we still remember them. We know their names, we know their lives, because they have made their life sublime. They have made their life very important and worthy for us to learn from. The lives of so many great and successful men remind us that we can also achieve those heights if we wish to and if we work hard for that. If we can do that, we could be living forever in our works in the hearts of people. So if we do something worthwhile in our life, or if we become famous doing something, then we live in the minds of other people, in the hearts of other people. Longfellow compares this immortality to leaving footprints on the sands of time. So, if we compare our life to the sands of time, then our lives, our worthy lives, will be like the footprints printed on the sands of time. We'll not be living forever on this earth, but we can leave our marks on the flow of time so that we will be remembered by the future generations. So do something worthwhile so that the future generation remembers you for your worthiness, for your important work that you have done. We remember so many freedom fighters, we remember so many artists, we remember so many great personalities because of the worthwhile work that they have done. You also do something better in life so that your future generation remembers you. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. So he is continuing with the same theme of leaving a footprint to inspire others to follow. He compares a hopeless person to a shipwrecked man sailing over the large sea of life. So there may be another person who's very much depressed about his life, who's like a shipwrecked man, who doesn't know what to do in life, who doesn't know how to go about in life. So that kind of a person can find examples set by us and can gain courage from our life, and then from our examples, from our memorable examples, they can gain hope and then move forward. So to be examples for your future generation, you work hard, you do something worthwhile so that we set a benchmark for the future generation to follow. Coming to the ninth stanza, that is the last stanza. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So how should we have to be up at once, we have to be very much motivated, dedicated, and we have to start working. The poet here urges us not to mind the consequences of our action. We should not be worried about the results of our action. But how should we work? We have to make our mind prepared for any fate, and then we have to work on, we have to move on. We must carry on reaching great heights. We must learn to work, we have to learn to labor and to work hard, but we have to wait for the consequences, we have to wait for the results. If we work hard and if we do something worthwhile, certainly we will be rewarded for that. We have to wait for the rewards patiently. So how did you feel the poem? The poem is very optimistic in nature. It is very hopeful. It is very much inspiring and motivating. So we should not spend our priceless moments doing nothing. For students like you, in the beginning of the semester, you have to be very dedicated about your studies, you have to be more serious about your life, and you should not waste these moments of life doing nothing. You have to concentrate on your studies, you do something unique that you get noticed in life and you will be remembered by the future generations. We have to work hard towards reaching our goal and to make the most out of this short life. Here I have given the summary of the poem, a very simple summary. You also read the poem. Now I have explained it to you. So try to write a summary and a critical appreciation on your own. The poem Psalm of Life, written by S.W. Longfellow, is about what the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. So in the beginning itself we said that it is a conversation between what the heart of young man said to the psalmist. The poem is written in the model of psalms, that is prayers in the Hebrew Bible. The poem talks about the importance of life. Life is not full of sadness. It is not an empty dream. A dream presents many pleasant things, but those pleasant things go away after we wake up from the dream. The poet reminds us that one should not be lazy. If one is lazy, then he is equivalent to a person who is dead. So life is very much real and earnest. It is a serious business. People need to achieve whatever they can. Life is short and death is not the goal of life. We should not think that one day we will die, so we can go easily. We can take life lightly. It is not our policy. Bible has the remark, "Dust thou art, to dust returnest." So we have come from dust and we'll be returning to dust once our body dies. So there is no death for the soul. Life means to act in the present. It is neither for enjoyment nor for sadness. So we have a mixture of sorrow and happiness in our life. We should think that tomorrow is far from today. So we cannot have hopes in tomorrow. We have to act right now. Time runs away. Everybody of us is losing our valuable period of life day by day. Life is only a temporary rest camp. We are all soldiers in the battle of life. The poet asks us to be creative and to be a hero in the battle. Even though we are brave, we still move towards death. We must seize the life and we have to be heroic. We have to be like heroes in life. We must not be like dumb cattle. We should be more than animals. Animals do not have intelligence. We have intelligence. So we have to think and work accordingly. We should be careful of the past and future. Past is already gone and we don't know if future will come to us. So we are now in the present. So it is important to live and act within the present. In our heart, we must keep faith in God, and while working, we can follow the footprints of great men. Already, so many great men have lived on earth and they have left their worthwhile memories, worthwhile actions for the future generations. So, similarly, when we die, we leave our footprints on the sands of time. Our own greatness will be recorded for the future generations only when we do something important. It is possible that some other person who's working, who's very sad and who's depressed, may see our actions and take inspiration from that. Knowing this, we should be hopeful and we should be prepared for any result. We should we should learn to work hard and wait for the results of our hard work. We must not stop our hard work at any point of time. The poet advises us to get rid of laziness and be brave to face the problems of life. So, in this summary, I have concentrated on the main idea of the poem, and then I have used only simple vocabulary. So, you can as well read the poem and try to attempt a summary on your own words. Now here we have reading comprehension. So I have given certain important questions so that already you have had an idea of the poem. So now let us try to answer these questions. Who is the poem addressed to? What kind of approach does the poet have towards life? The poem is actually a conversation between a young man and a psalmist. So, a young man is speaking to the psalmist. And the poet has an optimistic attitude towards life. The poem is very inspiring and it is also motivational. Question number 2. According to the speaker, what is the goal of life? What is not the goal of life? He is not asking about the goal of life. He is asking what is not the goal of life. Dying without achieving anything is not the goal of life. To die is not the goal of life. Our soul will be dead if we ignore our duties, if we are lazy and do not see for what they really are and let ourselves lazily sleep towards our ends. So we should not be lazy. Those who slumber are like dead. So grave is not the goal of life. Next one, that is question number 3. Why does the poet call art long? Once an artwork is created, it will remain forever. It will not perish. So art is timeless and it is immortal. So it is long. That is why the poet calls art long. Explain the line funeral marches to the grave. So the beating of the human heart during the time of death is compared to the constant beat of the drums in funeral marches. So when we hear about somebody's death, so we have that fast, steady beating of our heart. So that is compared to the drums in a funeral march. What does the phrase bivouac of life mean? So it refers to a temporary shelter. So we are on earth only for a short period of time, and whatever we wish for should be achieved in that short duration of time when we are alive. Question number 6. What do sublime lives indicate? Sublime lives indicate the lives of great men who have done something worthy in life. Those are the lives which have achieved so much that they are looked up to and praised for their achievements. So they are those important people who have achieved something great in life, and those people whom we remember even today. How can the experiences in our life be an inspiration for our others' lives? As we live, we should face hardship in our life with determination. Only our will and persistence will help us overcome the obstacles. And if we overcome the tough times of life with confidence, others who face similar situations, similar problems, will get courage from our lives. So we'll set an example for those kind of people to hold on and succeed in life. Question number 8. What advice does the poet give about past and future? The poet advises us not to be tied up to our past. Past is already dead, it is already gone. And we should not be haunted by the memories of past. And we should not have anticipations about future also. He says, trust no future, however pleasant, because they are just dreams. We don't know if it will come to us or not. And let the dead past bury its dead. Let us not be bothered about the past, but we have to live in the present. Question number 9. How does the poet want you to face battle? The poet wants us to face the battle heroically, like soldiers. The poet calls life as the world's broad field of battle. 10th question. What does the speaker say about human heart? He says that human hearts are strong, stout and brave, but their beating is like a warning to each one of us that our end is nearing. So we should be aware of that call of the heart. So its beating is compared to the beating of the drums heading to the funeral march. So we have to be conscious that each one of us is destined to go to our death, our end, and it is nearing with every pass of time. Here you have new words. Psalm is a song of prayer. Usually it is found in the Hebrew Bible. Numbers are poetic meters, rhythms. Mournful means sad. Slumber, sleep. Destined end is the goal. Fleeting, passing, briefly passing by. Stout is very strong. Muffled means very soft voice, not easy to hear. The bivouac of life. Bivouac is a temporary rest camp made by soldiers. So our life is also like that. It is a temporary rest camp. Forlorn means somebody who is very lonely and sad. Strife is struggle. Take a heart again, that is gaining confidence in life. So your life may be an example for others and they may take a heart again from your experiences. Take confidence. They may gain confidence in life seeing your experience. Labor here means hard work. Sublime means noble. Great men's life are sublime. That is what the poet says. So that is the end of this poem. I hope you have enjoyed listening to the poem and you are clear about whatever I have discussed here with you. So here you have references. If you want to read more about the poet or the poem, you can refer these links. That's all for today. Thank you, students. Thank you for listening.